Me, I should record it while I was thinking about it. What did you send me from the shitty Daystream? I do remember it was
I think I
weird.
just sent you a link to the subreddit itself, but I
Yeah,
mean,
but
I don't know.
the link had like an entertaining one on it though. Oh, that's in the
Uh,
group chat, isn't it?
Threshold wasn't bad because of the salamanders. There you go. I don't know.
That says if Tuvix masturbated during his short time alive, would that mean Tuvok and
Right.
Neelix had a sexual relationship?
Yes. Yes, that's right.
I
So
mean,
there you go.
he was Tuvix for like 2 months, was it? So it was like not a
It
short
was,
time.
yeah, it was a while.
Anyway, that's the
And
wrong kind of after dark, I guess, coming from a smart conversation.
or the right kind of after dark. Spock should
Oh
get a Glock.
gosh.
PSA: the spoon on Cardassian women's foreheads is for the wasabi. Okay, well, yeah.
Sure.
Anyway, that's my kind of dumb stuff. Okay, let's get to some slightly less dumb stuff than that.
Some
A little.
MMA.
Oh man. Am I prepared for this?
I don't know. Are you
No, I
prepared
am
for
not.
this?
I think this is a great. This goes great with last week's show. Well, I mean, if you don't know anything about
Yeah,
it, then
and I wasn't expecting to be on both episodes, so it was kind of like a 1-2 punch. Like, wow, all the big space battles you can ask for.
yeah, and well, we get into it. I hate like using up the good conversation for the not recording. So all right,
we are recording. I just assume this is it. But now you do an introduction. You introduce yourself to the people.
5 seconds pause, please.
I was just gonna let it roll. No pause. Just
Introducing.
introduce it. We're already on air.
Introducing the podcast known as Podcast 1999, the podcast about space 1999. I'm your host, Mark Malik. This is my co-host.
This is Matt.
I'm becoming my own worst enemy. Speaking of enemies,
your last enemy.
before speaking of enemies, we've got Brian here. How you doing?
Hi.
You do a last name. You want to be a last name guy?
A last name guy?
Oh yeah,
well, it's like in the title of the podcast, isn't it? So it's not like it's a secret.
It's not a secret.
I always assume. Okay, I always assume that people don't want to be known for being on here. Brian Clayton's here.
I'll be in your podcast, but tell no one I was there, please.
Yes.
I will only do it in a funny voice, so you will not know who I am.
I have, not gonna get too far into it. I've known of some semi-anonymous appearances on some podcasts, but this podcast is about The Last Enemy.
That's right. No friends here. All enemies.
No friends. Only enemy.
And it's not the penultimate enemy. No, it's the last enemy we're going to be talking.
I'm going to throw out that they probably put all the episode titles in like a bag and pulled them out at random.
I have.
This one makes a lot more sense as war games. I still think the full circle is actually missing Link because that makes so much more sense. I mean, end of eternity. What does that mean? That guy could be the last enemy. Why not?
He could be
end of
last
eternity.
Enemy.
I mean, end of eternity is just a joke, basically, like to infinity and beyond.
Yeah,
and that's what we discussed about war games. It was all about fear is the mind killer sort of thing. So wouldn't that be the last enemy? Dun dun dun. So.
Yeah, that was more like a genocide than a war, really. But this is a war. This should have been called War Games.
Yes, we should send them.
I think they say war. It is a war. When we get out, I don't want to be in the middle of your war. They say war more often in this episode than they did in War Games, I think.
Indeed,
it's a genuine war.
That one he just announces at the beginning of the episode. We're at war, so he doesn't have to say it again. Whereas this one, it's kind of you're dealing with someone else's war, so you have to keep calling it out. Maybe that's it.
He just starts singing
and they
War
keep
Ensemble
calling it out. We didn't start this war. We didn't start this war.
Yeah,
nobody started the war.
Nobody started the war. Who knows who started the war? The sun.
He didn't start the fire.
Sunny, we are all star stuff.
I think there's a third planet who started the war. Anyway, well, I do have some stuff about the episode title in the trivia. This episode was 18th in production order. We have Bob Kellett back as writer and director this time. You last saw his directorial work in The Full Circle, and this is his last directorial credit and only writing credit for the show. The original title of the episode was The Second Sex, as Barbara Bain pitched the episode idea as sort of a battle of the sexes. For instance, Dion's escape pod was originally shaped like an egg, and the two planets had gunships that were the exact same model but two different colors. The actual script ended up having the motivation for war being that the Bethans wanted the Deltans' resources, but that didn't make it to air. There's also a male Bethan whose scene got cut, so the planets ended up gender segregated anyway. The other major change is that the script had Koenig giving Delta the coordinates of the Bethan gunship at the end. This was replaced by the bomb plot and some other extra footage written by script editor Johnny Byrne. Remember how he replaced Christopher Penfold last episode? He went uncredited here, though. The title being changed to The Last Enemy after the second sex and then The Second Enemy made ITC decide that this is the season finale. That's it. That's why it's the season finale. It's because they said this is called The Last Enemy, so this is the last episode.
Makes sense.
Anyway.
What?
Sure.
Can't argue
Really?
with that logic.
Okay.
Okay.
I have some notes on this stuff, guys.
I would
It's
love
like-
to send the executive some notes on this.
First of
Oh,
all,
boy.
it's very interesting. I'm sorry. Are you done? I don't want to.
No. Well, I'm in the middle, but go ahead.
Go.
I don't-
No. Well, I will let you finish. I don't want to interrupt your flow.
All right. Well, I just have some stuff on people. Our primary guest this week is Dion is Carolyn Mortimer, born in 1942 in Willersey, Gloucester, in England. Some English words. She was a mostly TV actor known for the Cleopatras, the Culture Vultures, and Saturday Night Out. She continued to work in the 21st century and passed away in 2020. Was it COVID? I don't know. Undisclosed. Appearing as the Bethan commander Thea is Maxine Audley. She was born in 1923 and had a background in theater, but also had a thriving career in British TV and film, appearing in Bognor, Sinful Davy, and Frankenstein Must Be Destroyed. She continued working up until her death in 1992. Dion's first officer is only credited as First Girl, and she's played by Carolyn Courage. There isn't much about her on IMDb, but her name is Carolyn Courage, and she should probably get her own TV show where she plays herself. Representing the Deltans is Kevin Stoney as Talos. Born in 1921, he flew fighter planes in the Royal Air Force in World War II until he crashed too many planes and was reassigned as a navigator. He often played police officers, butlers, or villains, and you can catch him in Call Me Mr., Doomwatch, and in The Prisoner as Colonel J in The Chimes of Big Ben. He retired in the early 90s and passed away in 2008. Okay, Brian, what you got? Was it that stuff?
And then specifics is that when
Yeah, go ahead.
as usual, I dive into the novelization and see and compare it to what aired. And I noticed the one male character who initially talks to Dione at the beginning of the episode was replaced by Thea. And that plus the fact that there was no explicit mention of it in the episode would probably lead a lot of people to not necessarily conclude that this was a battle of the men's planet versus the battle of the women's planet. But they made those changes because we only see like 5 Bethans and 1 Deltan, and so there's really nothing to really go on. But it's interesting to hear. Yeah, it was kind of pitched and originally written that way. So
I
yeah,
got on that
I
track because the wiki plot description like said that, so it's like that's what I'm getting into. And yeah, actually, when I was watching, I was like, well, it's not really obvious unless someone tells you ahead of time.
exactly. That's my point. I think they should have maybe included a line in there, but of course, you can't obviously have a planet that's all men and one that's all women.
Yeah,
and
how would they reproduce?
no one reproduces, but you can have a patriarchy planet versus a matriarchy planet, which is kind of how this comes across. I wish they'd underscored it a little more if that was their intention. And what was the other thing from the novelization, real quick? Oh, the plot about just giving them the coordinates and blowing up Dione's ship without the whole subplot. Yeah, that was also in the novelization. So I assume that was the first draft script that they were working from. But a lot of the dialogue is identical. It's less deviations from the aired episode in that regard.
The DVD here does not mention battling sexes. It just says 2 warring worlds. So they were not writing that very hard.
I did come across something. They didn't say whether this was responsible for them dropping the sex battle plot, but the whole thing where they were going to have the 2 different spaceships that were that were the same but two different colors was dropped because they decided too many British people had black and white TVs, so it wouldn't work. So
Hey,
I
Mark,
don't know if that
you
led
just
directly
stumbled
to it.
into the perfect title for this episode.
Sex battle.
Yeah. That's what I'm going to call it now.
Yeah.
Oh, and in terms of model, the little flying egg shaped pod, that's an interesting little note. Again, underscoring the sex warfare thing. But
Right.
in the original script, it was just like a moon buggy type thing. Dione just drove over from her ship to the Alpha
Yeah.
and drove back later.
They could have made the gunship
Well-
way more phallic, you know. I mean,
Well, I mean,
honestly, the
it's just
models in this
spaceships
real
are.
cool.
Yeah, it's already spaceships are already phallic, so it's just you don't really even have to do a lot of work there.
Good
You
point.
just give somebody an egg.
I also thought it might be easier to shoot a spaceship model than to do another moon buggy when set up the whole moonscape thing again and to try to drive it across. I mean, that itself was probably I remember one production note though. Wasn't this episode like not the last one produced, or not the last one shot, but there was a lot of post-production done probably to change some of these things we just discussed at the very end
Yes.
of the first year. So in a way, it's kind of the last episode shot. So it kind of fits into being the last one aired, but I
Except
never
it
thought
doesn't.
of it as the last episode. Maybe it was when it first aired ages ago in my
Yeah.
market, but I don't remember that. So
Well, it
Like
may
back-
not
I
have been
was-
in your market. It was definitely that way in England, but that doesn't. You know, we've seen many times that doesn't necessarily translate to
I
anywhere else.
think the US followed more the production order, which is kind of the DVD order, which is our order. So here we are.
Yeah, back when we did the Prisoner, we like continue like, what order should this be in? And we never really like settled on anything. Where I feel like this one definitely production order is the one that makes sense. So
Well,
Well, the prisoners
the-
and debated about that. Endless.
Yeah.
It goes on.
yeah, that's the thing is the prisoner is disorienting by nature, so it's just no. And yeah, they do a lot of work at the end to make sure that you know that he's just trapped there forever. Spoilers, sorry. Or not. Maybe he got out.
Hey,
Um,
you want to do the plot for this one for Sex Battle?
Yep. I had sex battle plot. All right. Summary. Moonbase Alpha has come across two potential planets. They're both orbiting the same star, even though the planets apparently can't see each other because the sun is directly in between them. Koenig tries communicating with the left planet, known as Betha, but they don't respond. He is convinced they'll attack, and they manage to neutralize all the Eagles and interfere with the computer's operation from afar. They land their ship on the moon and fire missiles, but the missiles weren't aimed at Alpha, but instead at the right planet. It turns out that the moon has given them an opportunity to fire at the other planet without their missiles being sucked into the sun in between planets. But this also allows the right planet to fire back at them. The commander of that spaceship, Dione, is that right? Dione? I think I messed it up in the trivia. Then demands sanctuary for themselves since Alpha will need their help. She insists that Koenig is no match for the other planet, known as Delta. But Koenig says he has no interest in being a sitting duck. Meanwhile, Delta lands a ship on the moon as well, and it uses the opportunity to shoot at planet Betha, and they send missiles up from their surface to destroy that ship. Koenig starts convincing Dione that a ceasefire would be the smart thing, and Alpha reaches out to Delta to try to negotiate. Talos, the commander from Delta, says that they will consider it. Koenig also contacts Dione's superior, Thea, and she says that she agrees to a ceasefire under certain conditions, even though she considers Delton's unreasonable. Then Talos gives them a similar response. Negotiations are tense, but basically the Deltons threaten Alpha if Betha launches ships without them being informed. Both sides agree to a ceasefire, and the Alphans hope to get out before anything else happens. Dione offers them a chance to live on Betha. Koenig says he'll consider it, but also makes sure to keep her under supervision while she's on Alpha. This doesn't stop her from teleporting out and heading back to her gunship, where she begins plotting with Thea to attack Delta. Koenig contacts her and asks her what she's up to, and she explains that she's breaking the ceasefire because they have an advantage again since the gunship isn't as disabled as they pretended it is. Koenig explains to Talos that they've both been tricked, but Talos threatens to destroy them unless they give him the exact coordinates of the gunship. Dione threatens Alpha if they work with Delta. Koenig stages a ruse pretending he's going to meet with her, but sends a bomb instead. It goes off and blows the entire gunship to pieces. Delta then agrees to destroy their own missiles. Alpha continues on, and Koenig hopes that Betha and Delta will find a way to live together.
So we're like 200% sure at this point that the moon has no atmosphere.
Yeah.
Why
And
is this
yet
episode so
smoke
noisy?
billows.
I'm thinking about all that damn noise. I mean, I've made,
And
yeah,
noise.
like where they say like 5 people have had like their middle ears ruptured or something. It's like,
Yeah.
I guess there could be internal noises as things are crackling and blowing up that could cause that. But yeah, all the screaming missiles for like extended periods. I'm like, no,
No.
you don't have to deal
No.
with
So-
that.
I can understand the base rumbling because the ship is sitting on the ground, like a half a mile away, so it can rumble. Also, of the entire lunar surface they could set up their gunship on, why does it have to be right next to Alpha?
Because Alpha looks cool and they want a nice view.
Why
Yeah.
threaten the one little pocket of, life on that moon by waging your war next to it?
They want to keep their
Because
eye
you
on
wouldn't
them.
have a story otherwise.
Make sure they're not up to much.
Dione wants to have sex with Koenig.
Mm.
That's
Oh
why.
gosh. Okay, so the minute she appears, it's like obviously some of the men are taken with her, but in the novelization, he cranks it up to 11, and Helena is like super jealous of this woman in the book. She's always like looking at her and thinking things and feeling, what was the phrase? It was like dowdy and diminished in her presence. And it's like, okay, I know this book was written by a man in the 70s, but still, this is not
Hey,
one step
Downey is
forward for a strong female alien commander villain, and then 2 steps backwards for how they're treating the rest of their cast. Because
It seems they've stolen the costumes from the set of Faster Pussycat Kill Kill. Like they all look like Tourist and Satana.
Yeah. This is the thing. This is so much like last week's episode, but I think this is much better because it kind of has a story, even though the story is definitely not fully formed. And
yeah.
I sort of have a problem how Koenig did war crimes at the end. That wasn't super great. I think it was kind of right. Do you guys feel any kind of way about that?
He'll be out of
You
town
mean his
tomorrow.
ruse? You mean his
just
ruse?
him blowing them up. It's sort of like,
Well,
I mean, he just super
he
murdered
kind
a
of
lot
had
people.
no choice at this point.
It was their
Also,
fault. I mean, they had
think-
it coming, but
Do you think this was one of the reshoots they did? It was just adding this whole subplot, which may explain why other things disappeared to make room for it. I think they had to film this to make the story more interesting because I think someone said, this woman got the best of Koenig. He needs to turn it around and get back at her. She tricked him, so he needs to trick her in order to come out on top. So I think that's the reason it was rewritten this way.
It was either Johnny Byrne or the ITC people. I would suspect the latter. I think it said something like executives or producers didn't like the ending where he just gave the coordinates, which seems like the thing to do, right? Because the neutral thing to do is say like, look, they're over there. We're not involved. Peace out. But this is like, this is just yeah, I'm just gonna blow you guys up because you're the closest.
Why let the Deltons blow him up when you could do it yourself?
Yes.
Well, Dione threatened to destroy him if he did it.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
at this point, now we started entering into what's Dione's motivation, and was she as bad as we think she was? Because she pointed out at the very beginning they could have just blown them away, and as a threat. Instead, they just disarmed them so they can come down and do their thing. And I thought it was very interesting, Matt, the note you had on the fact that the Eagles, couldn't launch their rockets.
Moonbase Alpha's gone flaccid, that note.
Yeah.
Exact. I never thought of it like that. I never thought that. I never thought that was it's kind of a, erectile dysfunction joke, basically.
I don't
well, the
know why
women
this
showed
one
up
came
and
out
all the
so
men
baldy
can't
for me.
perform now.
So
it's all baldy commentary for me this week.
yeah, you cannot, if someone doesn't kill you because they can use your moon to fire at someone else, then you can't trust them. Like that is the definition of they're using you. So even if she says you can come live with us, like if they blew up Delta immediately, like it seems unlikely they wouldn't just blow up Alpha too.
if I had done the rewrites in the last scene of this episode, Koenig would still be considering if he should take up that offer to live on the planet.
um, it was extremely weird to me that they didn't just call the planet Beta, because we were already had Alpha and Delta. So
Yeah,
they decided just not to stick. I think they decided, well, that's too on the nose if we also have a third Greek letter.
Well, why'd
So
they call
we'll call
Delta Delta?
Yeah, then why not?
Let's stick an extra H in that one too.
Well,
Why
it's
not?
alien. Well, it's like, if one of the, I mean, one of the planets could reasonably be called Alpha, but then that would just be confusing because then Alpha would be attacking
Sure.
Alpha. But I
I
mean,
mean,
it's not like they met
Beta,
before; they could do that.
Delta. I've probably said this on this podcast before, but it makes me completely insane that Romulus has a planet next to it called Remus.
That's where the legends are born.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me insane.
No, Mark, I think actually this episode in War Games is a good indicator of how you and I see the series a little bit differently, because I think this one's smarter. It makes more sense. I like War Games better. I like the metaphysical insanity of it all, whereas this one's pretty straightforward. This is like, I mean, it's not quite hard sci-fi, but it's a lot closer.
It's closer to a Star Trek episode. Star Trek would just go there. They would say that this is a male planet and a female planet. I mean, the Orville
Kirk would
did that
have
pretty much.
Since they have a propulsion system, Kirk would have had time to give him a speech. Picard would have had time to diplomatize the planets. Is that a word? Whereas the part of the reason we have the existential dread question here is because the moon is just a free trajectory, so they can never really pause or spend time anywhere. They're on a schedule. Yeah. It's like they're a cruise ship.
But I mean, the thing is that this could be their last stop. It just isn't.
Well, if they got off, it'd be their last stop. Yeah,
it could be.
Sorry, I keep saying things that and like after I say it, I think it's a pun or something.
Sorry, I'm frozen.
Mark's frozen. We can hear you though, so yeah.
Yeah, you're right. I shouldn't have worried about that.
You just need to make sure that when you get frozen, you're like making a completely insane face, like the dead guy from a few weeks from the end of eternity. You need to be frozen. That kind of thing. You just freeze it now. There you go. Okay.
Well, I don't think it's very good podcasting to just wait for myself to freeze while not talking. Yeah. I like this better because there is sort of a conundrum here instead of just aliens showing up and saying things at you. Like, even though this is not super well executed, there's a lot of redundant dialogue where Dione says things over and over. Talos, it's weird that Talos is just kind of by himself.
And also he seems to be sleeping for like 75% of his screen time. Like,
which I like that. Closed. I like that. I think that's great.
What was that?
Weird.
He didn't care. Like he's
it's
like,
weird.
I can't be bothered with this. It is weird.
I don't know why he did it, but it's a weird choice, and therefore I like it.
Maybe Delphins don't like eye contact.
There should have just been some dudes back there just to flesh it out a little bit instead of making me think that it's just a guy on a planet by himself.
Yeah, well, it's a kind of a weird acting choice. Just lean back and keep your eyes closed, except for the last dramatic moment where you lean way forward into the camera, open your eyes.
Finally opens his eyes. Just he does say he says he's gonna consult the council, so you assume someone else is there, but he could have just been making up the council. Maybe he's like extremely schizophrenic, alone on a planet, trying to blow up another planet.
It would be weird if he was the only one on the planet.
I mean, maybe he was. That would be a thing to ponder in a sci-fi program.
I wasn't sure. We're supposed to believe he's the supreme commander of the forces. That doesn't mean he's like a dictator who runs the whole planet, because he talks about the Presidium, so he has somebody he reports to, and I guess Thea does too. So they're not the leaders, but
I mean, if this was a more interesting episode, we would have gotten something. We would have gotten something from them. I don't. It was very disappointing that when they did negotiations, they both basically said the same thing and then just immediately negotiated, and that was just the end of it. There was no tension there.
It's sometimes negotiations go well. You pat yourself on the back when that happens.
But then they didn't. I mean, they didn't.
It didn't work out in the end, but it worked out.
Well, the Beethans had a plan. We don't know the Deltans had a plan. they did go along with it pretty readily, but then they kind of dictated the terms. So
It worked well in the short term, at least, if not the long term. They call that a minor victory.
Well, I mean, the real victory was Koenig's because he blew someone up to pieces.
Without screaming at them, too. He doesn't really get pissed in this episode, as you said. All the screaming's from the missiles.
Yep. Well, would this episode have been better if he said, "I let my missiles do the screaming"?
So
No one would
there's an
say that, except-
interesting point between last week when Coney, decides not to fire ultimately after that whole illusion. He decides not to fire, but then in this episode, he's all very much like launch eagles, all this stuff, and then Victor says, "This isn't your style, John."
Mhm.
It's like, well, it's his style today, but apparently his style goes back and forth between these two extremes.
this isn't your
So
style,
do you guys think that those aliens from last week and then the aliens from the last sunset and maybe whatever other aliens are just like looking from afar and be like, "Yep, that's right. We shouldn't have let him land here."
Yeah, they may
See,
not
that's
be
what they
wrong.
do.
If their telescopes are strong enough, perhaps. Yeah.
What if they looked through time and saw what Koenig was going to do to Beethans?
I know this is a normal sci-fi point that comes across, but they send everyone underground once the attack begins, right? And
Mm-hmm.
and I think I was saying it last week, why isn't main mission underground in the first place? And again with Star Trek, why are the bridges like on the bullseye of the saucer section? It's like, why isn't
Well,
it in the
first of
center?
all, they didn't plan the moon to be facing alien attacks every week. It was supposed to be, a research base. They put the big tower in the middle. That's, the control tower sort of thing, I guess. And it's just cooler to have windows. I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah. The bridge is the bridge is in the middle of the flying saucer section. So in case they need to use the window to drive, they have the window there.
See, Battlestar, they put CIC like in the center of the ship where it probably makes the most sense. They also don't have a cool view screen, so that's kind of a bummer. But
It's
Are we?
maybe
Go ahead.
just to force lower decks people to be underneath everybody else. It's like a
lower decks doesn't make sense if the
symbolic.
bridge is in the middle.
Are
Yeah,
we jumping the timeline at all for this?
symbolic.
Because you want to talk about year 2?
I mean, what do you
sure.
think, Matt? I'm fine with that.
I don't care. Go for it. I mean, yeah, we haven't done any year 2 yet, but
Well, okay, spoiler alert, blah blah blah. In year 2, the main mission set comes down and they have a command center, and it's basically what would have been like the auxiliary command center, I guess, in some other design, but yeah, it's underground.
Okay.
So after a year, they learn their lesson, realize the main mission's too exposed, and they move everything underground, and they call it command center. So that's why everything's different in year 2.
I don't see where that's a spoiler, I because people get so touchy about spoilers. He says, I'm like, oh, they moved it underground. I'm like, well, yeah, sure, why not? I don't think I
Well, I
lose
think a
anything.
great number of fans mourned the loss of main mission because it was simply a big, cool set, but also it took up a lot of real estate in the studio. That's probably they trimmed down the studio space, I think, between year 1 and year 2, so they had to compact things, and that was probably the actual real life reason they did that.
Yeah, I mean, it is a tragedy because I think I don't know, is main mission like the coolest sci-fi set? I'm sitting here thinking if I can think of a cooler
I don't know,
one.
the Beethans command center is pretty rad here.
I'm just talking about like across
just
sci-fi. What is the coolest sci-fi set?
Like the coolest recurring sci-fi set is what you're saying?
Recurring, yes. Like I think main mission might be the winner.
Could be.
And there's lots of cool Star Trek bridges, but I think main mission beats them out in the end.
Yeah, maybe so.
I'm a sucker for, as I guess a lot of fans of the show are for, weird 60s, 70s retro futurism style. So this is like the apex of that.
Shuttle, what is it? Shuttle punk? Space shuttle? Space punk?
I guess. I did call the one of the ships a steampunk Discovery. So
actually, I actually for the first time actually sat down and watched THX 1138 all the way through recently.
With the weird digital effects or without?
I don't know. Didn't make any sense. It was great to look at.
because there's there's the original version that has a lot of, I guess, black backgrounds, but some people think it's more stark that way. So
Black background. I think it was a lot of white back. Is the white background a digital thing? Is that what it is?
it's been 20 years since I watched it, but I think I watched the
Oh.
Lucas version. He Lucas to that one too.
Jeez, what the hell, Lucas?
I think people gave him a little more credit on that one though, because it was a low budget movie that wasn't quite properly finished.
I mean,
But
yeah.
at
Well,
the same
now
time, it's like,
James
just show me the
Cameron.
original, you know?
Yeah, well, now James Cameron is releasing 4K versions of his own movies that are all messed up with noise reduction. So,
Oops.
yeah, I guess don't let directors get too powerful or they'll destroy their own work. So that's cool. Great, really great. Thanks, capitalism.
Sometimes you just want to destroy something beautiful.
Yeah, there's gonna be a Fight Club version where like digital meatloaf
They
or something. I don't.
splice Tyler Durden frames into all of those movies. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. No, he's like, I removed the Tyler Durden frames.
Oh right, yeah, yeah.
I don't know what how do you mess that movie up? I'm sure there's some way.
Hmm.
But
Okay. I don't know. I'm looking through my notes just for random. Well, I did kind of wonder a little bit, which you might have seen my note. I was wondering if this was going to turn out to be Space 1999's A Private Little War, but that's where I guess Star Trek having propulsion and the moon is just like out of here is different because it's not a choice here. They're just on
yeah.
their way. Whereas, in A Private Little War, they very much make the decision to give up on this, alien Vietnam.
Yeah, like I said earlier, Star Trek would have fleshed this out better, but it is kind of interesting how Alpha has no support system, and yeah, they do need to get out of there. And that would make an interesting I'm sure there is some Star Trek. Well, there probably are several Star Trek stories where the people are just like, we got to get out of here.
Yeah. Right, but they can. Whereas this is like a ticking
Yeah.
clock situation. Like, we are going to be here for the next 4 hours, and 4 hours it won't matter anymore because we will be gone. Which
Yep.
I was thinking, that's why I didn't get Commander Koenig even considering the offer. It's like they don't even have time to properly leave. I mean, their Project Exodus or whatever it is, they always say it takes like a day or two.
Mm-hmm.
So 4 hours isn't enough.
Yeah.
And they give Dione quarters. I'm like, for 4 hours, really? Which I guess they're really putting her in a very nice cell is what they're doing. But
Yeah. But I didn't know she could just teleport whenever she wanted, which, I don't think she teleported there in the first place, but maybe she was trying to be friendly.
that's a little bit of a plot MacGuffin, I guess, that she
Yeah,
could
they just
teleport.
couldn't figure out how to get her off the ship, so they just did that.
And she kind of does that, like, it almost seems like an I Dream of Genie thing, like, doot, doot, right?
Yep.
And off
Yeah,
you
she just
are.
thought really hard and then was gone.
So, okay, I guess if I was looking at a place in this plot that was a little goofy, that would be the main one. Because otherwise, it is kind of like weird alien diplomacy, which kind of makes sense with Koenig, making somewhat rational decisions until he pulls a gun on his command staff again.
Well, that wasn't, that was a ruse.
It was a
I
ruse,
think
but they didn't know that for like 10 seconds.
that is true.
There were 10 seconds where I was like, oh man, is he really gonna just be like, no, you're all wrong again? But I guess he successfully pulled the ruse on the audience as well. So
Yeah, it was a little more interesting than the usual Koenig is extremely competent thing, even though that resulted in him just blowing people up. which it doesn't really make me mad. It's just kind of funny and ridiculous.
and yeah, just plot wise, like you mentioned, the ceasefire is like negotiated way too quickly. So I'm like looking at the
Mhm.
time, up 15 minutes left. This isn't gonna go well.
Yeah, we literally spent more time on the bomb than we did on the negotiation. You know what I mean?
I did think it was kind of funny when the helmet falls off. I guess they needed to show a way to reveal that no one was in there.
Yeah.
Even though I pretty
Yeah,
much worked that out already. It wasn't like
yeah.
it wasn't like a mastermind ruse or anything.
Well, that's also we the audience saw him say, only show her this, and then I'm pretending to hold a gun on you. So we know that he's up to something. And it's gonna be some Bugs Bunny thing again.
I was
Yeah,
holding back
that
on saying that because I wasn't sure if I should.
No.
This is more of a Wile E. Coyote thing, I think.
I mean, I don't think I really made this point the last time this came up, but I think that the Space Commander doing Bugs Bunny stuff is actually good because that being the smart guy who's not like the smart guy who's not the bully is sort of the job of the space captain. However, he did blow them up. So then that kind of cancels out the bully thing, maybe.
Should he be more of a space bully? You know, make fun of all the aliens they meet, and then like really own that Bugs Bunny sort of vibe.
Sure, just start like making fun of them and then showing up behind them, and uh, but it's kind of funny that they kept going on and on about how Alpha was no match for Delta, but they were able to just absolutely obliterate their gunship with a bomb that fit on a little moon buggy.
They could have had a nuke.
Clearly,
We know they have
well,
nukes.
well, there you
do
go.
they though? And as I had a
Huh?
question about that, if they had nukes, why didn't they like destroy each other almost immediately on the few occasions they apparently have traded shots with each other? Because it seems like if you lob enough H bombs from orbit, you can, pretty much wipe out a civilization. So I was kind of wondering if their weapons were nuclear based, because it seems like they
Well,
must be,
yeah,
but on the other
'cause that
hand,
was-
they're
that
not,
was- That was nuclear fuel that pushed the moon out of orbit in the first place. That's
Yeah,
fuel,
he was
though.
talking
That's
about-
not a bomb. Yeah.
You guys are Matt was talking about Alpha, not about Delta or Beta.
Oh,
I mean,
I was talking
it's-
about
yeah.
Delta. Sorry, I had to
Yeah,
step away from the mic for a minute,
No,
so I
no.
kind of missed a part of this conversation.
It's all good. Matt didn't know what you were talking about either. So, yeah.
So you
but-
negotiated our understanding of the conversation very quickly and
Yes.
efficiently, but we still have
Yeah, but
15
you guys
minutes left
weren't
to go.
shooting at each other, so it was really easy.
Not yet.
Not yet. I don't know. Maybe you guys have fired missiles and they're like flying across the Pacific Ocean right now. They'll get
Right.
there after.
Did we talk about how everyone seems to know that the Eagles are called Eagles?
Oh yeah, that was fun
ridiculous. Yeah. Oh, it's
It's
a
like-
bunch of eagles.
We're deliberately ignoring you and not answering your hails, but we know everything about you, strangely enough. Okay.
too. Maybe they have good probes. I don't know.
Well, last week's before they explained exactly what was happening, they had a bunch of American or what Earth Hawks were they? The aliens
Earth
did.
Hawks,
So
yeah, they weren't.
Earth Hawks, yeah.
But that was a reflection of their mind. So
Yeah, we know
The
that now,
aliens
but I
didn't
mean
have
at
to
the
know.
time it was like what? Then they
Well, that
didn't
was,
say-
the
confused.
mind bender. It's like, why are they attacking us with our own ships?
They
Yeah,
didn't
what's
learn
Earth
anything,
doing?
though? Because that episode didn't happen, whereas this one did
Well,
happen. So they'll remember what
yeah.
happened here.
Well, yeah, they didn't even learn anything from the hallucination because they just went and did war stuff again, blew someone
Yeah.
up.
Good. Well, yeah. I mean, they do try and negotiate first, poorly, but what can you do?
Well, I mean, they clearly did everything they could, which is blow up the people closest to you. That's the lesson here.
So, hey, Brian, you got any other big points you want to throw out on this one?
Oh, well, lacking any notes of my own, I'm just looking at yours. You pointed out, is it like a private little war from Star Trek? And it's like, well, that was more of a Vietnam parallel, wasn't it? Like arm both sides, so they just keep fighting. And that was not
Yeah.
really a great plan, but it happened. This is kind of more reminiscent of A Taste of Armageddon, where you actually have two different planets fighting each other in a long, pointless war. So you can
Oh
say
yeah.
that.
No, Landrew. Oh well, no, Landrew's not on that planet. He's on the Red Hour planet.
Yeah, I
They-
think
they
that
have a-
planet's now a Apple store in Culver City somewhere. So
Right.
the set was.
Well, that'll happen.
Apple
Yeah,
stores have good
yeah.
sci-fi sets, I guess. Yeah, better in a brewery.
I
I
mean,
have to find
yeah.
that shopping center where they built on top of that old studio. But let's see what else. Going back to the sets and stuff, I kind of wonder when I was thinking about it. It's like in the original series, Kirk was just on the bridge and he did not have an office, whereas in Space 1999, Koenig had a separate office adjacent. And then,
Best
strangely
office.
enough, Picard had an office on Next Gen. So I was kind of thinking, they left that idea from this show. Maybe, who knows? But then,
Oh.
ironically, Koenig loses his office next season. Sorry.
That's what happens when you go to auxiliary. Yeah, but
his,
he
Yeah,
does
when
his
get, like,
office is just like the closet full of water coolers. And he just has to go in there sometimes. and
No,
sit at a tiny desk. You don't see it on screen,
it's
but it's
kind
just
of
a tiny office. You never see it.
yeah, it is kind of like an office space situation. I was thinking because the evolution of the American business office is like, well, everybody had offices, then they had cubicles, then there's an open floor plan, and that's kind of where the show goes. Everybody has open floor plan where the boss just sits out there in the middle of it with you. But then again, that's kind of like more of the, Bridge of the Enterprise scenario. Your commander's right there in the middle of everything, so it kind of makes sense.
Unless he's hanging in a
Well,
swank office.
You know what won't be very fun is when they decide to do work from home Star Trek, and everyone's in their cabin, just using computers to all talk to each other.
There was a virus outbreak on the moon. Oh wait, that was 2001.
Yeah.
Never mind.
It's like, dude, you're not paying me, so I'm working from home. I'm working from
Sure.
this bunk bed,
Sure.
and someone working from inside the holodeck, just with their laptop. That'd be terrible. Never do that, Star Trek. Even though I want to work from home, so real life should do that, but not Star Trek.
There we go.
Okay.
So you can't complain when the shows like this aren't quite realistic because you don't want the realism.
I don't want that realism.
It'd be too depressing.
I mean, if I was in space, then I'd hang out with people. Sure, I'd commute.
People.
You don't commute. You're already there.
So it's practical and easy. How nice.
Yeah, makes sense.
You look so happy about it now that you're frozen again.
Computers are garbage. They're all just trash.
Okay, you're unfrozen again.
So,
I mean, it's USB problems and
Oh.
VR headset problems. My VR headset broke, and it's instead of disconnecting it, I just set it on a shelf, and now it's just turning on over and over and over again, taking all my USB resources. So
Great.
I can't disable it because when it shows up, then it disappears again.
So let's put the percentages on this one. How much is existential dread? How much is sci-fi fun?
I'm gonna go 50% dread for Betha and 50% sci-fi fun for Delta.
Okay.
That's probably reversed, but yeah, 50-50. It's a 50-50 type of episode.
Okay, sure. Ryan, what are your percentages on this one?
I think we're below. Again, this was like war games. We had actual destruction, whereas in this on Alpha, whereas in this episode, there's very little destruction around Alpha. Really, it's just like you said, a lot of loud noises. So I would call it, just based on the spaceships fun, I would probably give it more like a 70-30. I think it's a lot more fun, and there's a lot more intrigue going on with Dione. And you got women in leather cat suits, so what's not to like?
I'm gonna take it even further. I was sitting here thinking, actually, I'm gonna reassess it because you mentioned the missiles again. It's a 90% sci-fi fun, 5% screaming missiles, and just 5% of the dread. Because like the Star Trek episodes we brought up, A Private Little War and A Taste of Armageddon, I feel like those have more existential dread than this one, which is it's usually the other way around. So I guess that's what happens when you leave the metaphysics out of Space 1999. That's its cachet and dread, which this doesn't have. So
yeah.
I mean, this is there's a war going on, which would be scary, but the stakes are never clearly outlined, and that's really part of why I'm 50-50 on it, is because I should be afraid.
Like it
right?
seems
I don't
like
know.
Yeah, I don't feel afraid for them in this one like we would in war games. Yeah.
It's like he kills like Coney gets all the deaths. He racks up like whatever 8 deaths and nobody else dies, I think.
Yeah, this one it's well, I lost whoever thought I had there, but
He's gonna get 5 teardrops tattooed on his face, so we'll see from here on.
yes. Oh yeah, I was gonna say the big dread of Space 1999 is the unstoppable unknown, which this doesn't have. They seem to be maybe different strengths and different weaknesses, but the Alphans and the Delphins and the whatever the air planet was, they all seem to be technologically on a relatively even keel. I mean, obviously the planets in the system have a hometown advantage, but they all seem to be relatively technically similar, except for teleportation, maybe, which still seems like a cheat.
Did we get into that? Where did that come from?
Yeah.
Just plot device. This is once again relates to Voyager in that when in the later seasons of Voyager, when you open an episode with Janeway just wheeling and dealing with 5 different alien races, it definitely removes the tension from that series. And I don't think that series necessarily suffers for it. But that's sort of a thing here, is that we're not watching. The last week is, they're getting pummeled by someone they can't negotiate with. This one, they're pretty much just become the UN and then kill everyone. It's not. And also, I forgot to bring this up, but it was insane how everyone was always eavesdropping on everyone else in this episode. When Talos would show up and say something, and then Thea shows up, it's like, I heard exactly what Talos just said. It's like that happens over and over in this.
You can't get a missile from one planet to the other. How do you get a radio signal from one planet to the other? I don't understand that either. That seemed really convenient. I imagine there must be communication satellites all over that solar system that we don't know
use
about.
Gravitation orbits to get it anyway, even if it's on the other side of the sun.
Yeah, well, a lot of weak science there. I mean, haven't you ever heard of guided missiles that can steer themselves? Why don't you use those?
Yeah, no. Yeah, we like using straight missiles, but we can't unless we launch them off of your moon. It's insane, and they really should have left that part in the script about the resources, because they never see each other. Why would they be shooting? They're only shooting at each other because each of them insists the other started the war, which now I'm like talking myself out of liking this episode.
Well, going back to the teleportation thing, I thought, is that just a emergency device on her escape pod that she can call with her brain? And if she could, why didn't she just teleport all the way back to the Stasius rather than her escape pod? But
I thought she
then
was
I thought,
Genie.
I thought, and I thought, is this an innate ability of theirs? Can Bethans teleport themselves? Because that makes them really kind of creepy. They could go anywhere and do anything. Maybe that's why the Deltans don't like them so much.
It's just only women can do that.
Yeah, only women from Bethans. So there's the
battle of the sexes.
Something started this war, and maybe there's those people are creepier than we know. It's a plot device. I don't know how to explain it otherwise.
Yeah, the idea that both of them say the other started the war is kind of an annoying enlightened centrist thing. Like, maybe they're both bad. Which we got
that other isolated weird teleportation Guardian of Piri. So I guess with Kano. So I guess sometimes just like how are we gonna get out of this fine mess? Teleportation. Where does it come from? I don't know. It's sci-fi. It's the 70s. Just deal with it, man.
Yeah, you can't say that Star Trek didn't use teleportation for plot device.
Oh yeah,
you definitely cannot.
They had a machine.
We'll see more teleportation, I'm sure. Yeah, but usually on the aliens part, not on
so much easier.
The Alphans part.
Except that
it's cheaper. That's pretty much it. It's cheaper. But
and that's
you don't want that.
Roddenberry invented it.
Yeah. But you don't really want that to be real, because if that was real, then Dione died and then was cloned somewhere else, because that's what teleportation would actually do.
Yeah. Well, they
die yourself,
because in the future, it's a utopian society where you just are like okay with dying so that your teleporter clone can go live somewhere else, when you just are going, like 20 feet away.
Like, all right.
Yeah.
Also, if that was a thing, Dione and her crew would have just teleported back to Alpha before the ship blew up. They would just go scream, and then poof, and then they'd be back. So
just teleport there and be like, "You jerks! What did you do that for?" then that would be amazing if they'd done that and then said, "Well, because of this, you can never live on Betha," and then just go back. And that's the end of it. They just kick him out of paradise, basically.
I have one more thought. The gunship's view screen is fantastic, by the way. Very Buck Rogers. I like that.
Yep.
And then I do like when she asked Commander Koenig how many people are in Alpha. He's like, about 300. Because I thought, we'll get an actual count of where we are now, but he doesn't actually seem sure about his complement at this moment.
Yeah. About
because
300,
the writers aren't sure. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, depending on how many people died in the episode that aired before this one, yeah.
Well, those deaths didn't count.
They didn't die, though. They technically.
Well, I mean, all episodes before this one, not War Games, but collectively.
I wish they just done it, man. They'll never have 300 extras in the show. Just kill 100 people. Just do it. You know?
The rest
Okay,
of
you
it
want
will
a
be
hard
about
figure?
PTSD.
There's a hard figure at the beginning of season 2, so
well,
it's 200.
we're almost there.
It's
Let's just get
298.
there. Okay.
Okay, he was close. He was close
Spoiler.
then.
About 300. There you go.
How could you spoil that for me?
Because I think somebody sat down and counted
surprised.
all the deaths from Breakaway to Testament of Arcadia and then did the math.
Like there were something like 350 Avengers by the end of Endgame, and like 2 of them had died, I think.
So it's actually a pretty good job to have.
Yeah,
Not
it's
as
very
fatal
safe.
as you may think. Yeah, very
It's
safe.
way less fatal than being one of Thanos's guys.
True.
They all
Statistically
died.
safer than driving is flying. Yes.
Yep.
Being an Avenger.
Yep.
3. 3.
Well, then Black Panther died, but that was just totally unrelated.
Oh, that was unrelated. Yes. I guess we'll wind this one down unless someone has a big thunk to thonk about.
We're thinking thunks.
A thunk to thonk about. Yeah.
So
we talked about a lot of things.
Women are from Blue Planet and men are from Red Planet.
Left planet and right planet. Which it
Yeah,
would
but
have been the
they're
other
red.
if they're coming from the other direction, it would have been the other way around.
You're right. Why is it left? Why what happened? Did they always say is it always left no matter what? Like if
they just
have
needed
to
a
explain it?
shorthand. I don't know why they didn't just say Red Planet and Blue Planet, except for the fact, like you said, everybody had black and white TVs,
black
so
and
they
white
had to make it
TVs.
clear.
Yeah.
Isn't left brain logical and right brain emotional? Maybe they should be swapped. I don't know.
Yeah, but it's a thing where your brain controls the opposite part of your body, so your left brain controls your right half. So that's your. Damn it! Now I'm confusing myself.
Anyway, as a shorthand for as you're flying into a solar system, it's practical. It's just not cool, I guess is where I'm getting at. Like colors are cooler than directions.
I had fun with this episode, even though you can poke holes in it more easily than most things that exist.
I think the basic story holds up. Well, it's mostly you can poke holes in lots of details. The only story one which really bites it is probably that teleportation, but
yeah.
Otherwise, just goofy details, you know.
Yeah, they're doing those rewrites really fast, trying to get her out of there. So,
yeah, aside from the teleportation and like the war crimes at the end, even though, whatever, maybe they're not war crimes. I guess all's fair in war and blowing people up.
That was a little up for debate. Yeah, I mean,
it is something that Star Trek would never, ever, 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 ever do. And that's probably the yardstick I'm using here unfairly. But that is so far from something that would be acceptable on most sci-fi shows. I don't think even Star Wars would do that.
Are you sure? I'm thinking of the Kelvin versus Star Trek movie where they ask Nero if he needs any help, and he's like, "I hate you," so they blow him up.
Yeah, but like he's their enemy. He killed Kirk's dad.
Well, these people are about to get them blown up, so.
But it's not the same. It would be like if Romulans
showed up and were using revenge.
If they showed up and were using sort of like hanging out on Enterprise and launching missiles from them from there. Now
I think Next Gen did that episode.
Probably. I don't feel like that it's a very super cool Federation thing to do, to just blow up the guy who's launching stuff off of your moon.
But you know, the one thing with this
it did the trick.
The Alphans are in a much more like desperate situation in general, right? So they would take more desperate actions, where the Starfleet ships have more agency. Again, having nacelles helps a lot, you know, which Moonbase does not have.
Yeah, well, you just think of it like what if Janeway just blew up Tuvix with dynamite, and that made him back into the other two guys.
Shatters into two, yeah.
Yeah.
They should have had you in the writing room, man. Okay. They would have escorted you right out of the writing room.
I mean, they wouldn't even kill the bomb that was like the doctor. When the bomb was the doctor, they wouldn't even want to kill that guy. It was like a bomb. He was the bomb. Yeah, Dr. Bomb. I don't remember what happened, but I don't think they straight up killed him.
Okay. I guess
anyway,
different episode.
Now I've shown my true lack of knowledge.
All right. You want to show your
I will
having
retain.
knowledge
I
about.
will regain my knowledge by telling you the knowledge about finding us on patreon.com/podcastiopodcastius. Find all of our podcasts such as Films and Filth, Citizen Kane of Podcasting, Lucas Pokemon, Game Show, Hyrule Field Report, Occult Disney, Time Enough podcast covering Twilight Zone. And I think that's all the podcasts
I
that
think
you
you
could
did it.
find there.
I think
And
you
you
did that.
find bonus footage and send us money for server bills. And you can find Brian on some of our podcasts. Right.
Yeah.
You got any other
Yeah, I'm
plugs?
going to be on another one
Keep
at some
asking you.
point. I don't know.
Yeah.
Probably this one. I think the way things are going.
It would be like your Italian mother and be like, why are you not good to podcast? Come on.
Don't think I have anything coming up on Films and Filth anytime soon, but maybe. Who knows? It just depends on what Matt looks at the list and says, who's good for this?
I guess I
So,
Huh?
Mark, we need you to lean back, close your eyes, and be imperious. There you go. And also get some gray hair.
I'm just frozen there.
we're ending with another freeze frame.
There you go.
And brain
Oh, I'm so
surgery.
glad this is an audio.
Tell us of
format.
Delta, everybody. Tell us of Delta.
Launch the missiles.
There you go.
You look like you're pooping.
Did it freeze yet?
No. You just look
That's
like you're
not-
pooping.
It's because I'm trying so hard to close my eyes. All right. Well, later, everybody, don't shoot at the other planet.
Okay, there's a pause. So I thought we were already finished, but maybe.
Well,
not.
you edit it, so you finish it whenever you want.
I don't.
I
edit
thought
that
having
much.
him
I'm a
do the
lazy editor.
Telus impersonation would be a place to edit. I don't know.
Do these go up as video? I don't even know.
There's one on YouTube.
Just one. Okay.
No, I mean there's a channel where I put these just kind of. I don't like promote them or anything, but they're there.
Okay.
Some of them do have a weird number of views, I think, though.
I think we've attracted a few people who are into this stuff.
Like,
But
I guess podcasts on YouTube actually are a smart thing to do. Although I never listen. I never taken my podcast that way, but
I never
it?
like there are podcasters I like who do videos or do like Twitch streams, and I never see any of them because I just don't. If I'm in front of a TV, I'm either watching programs or I'm playing video games. So there's just no time for other stuff.
Yeah, you have to kind of pick and choose which format's best for you, I guess. I mean, listening to podcasts is very easy on commutes and away from home.
Yeah, I guess I should, I should always put podcasts on when I'm cleaning my room. But what I usually do when I'm cleaning my room is just put on whatever TV series I'm watching and half watch it while I'm cleaning.
for some reason,
That's such a dumb freeze frame.
for some reason, The Promise, the One Step Beyond episode that Brian you were on, has like a fair amount of views, but I don't know why.
I haven't listened to any of the One Step Beyonds or watched any of them except the ones I was on.
Yeah.
But are there any that I should, or were there any that were like good that I should watch?
The Navigator is quite good. Like probably a Navigator.
All right. The ones that I watched were pretty decent.
Thinking back, I think Emergency Only was pretty good.
Was that the one on the train? I'm trying to remember.
Yes. Yeah. Probably those are two that stick in my mind the most. So.
Well, I mean, I need to catch up on Twilight Zone season 3. I'm like way behind on that, so probably should focus on that stuff since I've got another one of those coming up, I think.
Right. Yes. You got to do a Young Man's. Actually, both you are up because it's Young Man's Fancy and then Body Electric are the next two I have to do. So.
Ooh, Body Electric sounds like a Prince song.
It is a Prince song.
Body Electric. Oh no, it's Dance Electric.
Oh, okay.
That's why I thought of that.
Well,
it's the one Twilight Zone written by Ray Bradbury. Who you think?
Nice. Oh man, that's got to be. Well, I don't want to get my hopes up too high.
And the title is taken from Walt Whitman, I believe. There's a poem called "I Sing the Body Electric."
Yeah, those because I did the Dummy yesterday, and then Young Man's Fancy, I Sing the Body Electric, Cavender's Coming, and Changing the Guard are the last 4 of season 3.
Oh my God, we're reaching the end.
Yes.
So when did you want to do Sing the Body Electric?
Next week or next week is probably fine.
Okay.
We can talk about that in the near future, I guess.
In the
And
near future.
and then yeah, Mark will get Young Man's. I gotta. I guess I'll prioritize the fancy because that one airs first. But
Yes, I look forward to seeing a young man's fancy. I'm just gonna do that the whole time. Oh, it's a young man's fancy, is it?
I'm such a dandy.
God, that's
It'll
a
be
disturbing
D.
episode. I watched that one not that long ago. That's a disturbing episode.
Good. I like the disturbing episodes.
And you'll
Okay,
love this
good.
one.
yeah, I did watch that one. I had a false start on that one last month, so. But yeah.
I try not to watch them too far ahead because I figure I'd start forgetting stuff if I do that.
Yeah, I guess we don't do the plot summary for those, so I don't know if that's a necessity or not.
I think I have one more lined up for season 1 of this show, but I have no idea. Well, I think I threw some ideas at you for season 2.
I might have
a while ago.
A document here that might tell me if that is the case, unless it's outdated.
It's slightly outdated.
I think I tapped Infernal Machine as one I'd like to do, so that would be probably the last one for this.
Yeah, you're on Infernal Machine. Yeah,
Which
that's what it is.
What, in 2 weeks, 1 week, 3 weeks, 5 weeks?
I should record pretty. Oh no, wait, did we? What's going on with this list? Oh, that should be pretty soon, actually. Jeez, this airs.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
Tomorrow?
I'm getting a lot of pile up of things.
Yikes! We got to make
actually,
sure we keep getting these out. Oh man, we're way up against the wall here.
Yeah. This is next week's episode. Infernal Machine. Well, it's actually February 7th. I did take 1 week off, so all the weeks.
Okay.
All the dates are bumped up 1 week right now.
Okay, good. Good. I'm like, wow, God, this is okay.
War
yeah, pretty soon.
War Game. The only reason War Games is not posted yet is because we're doing this podcast.
Is Scott gonna do Space Brain? Because I think he skipped out the last one he's gonna do.
It's just hard to pin him down, so maybe not.
I think you had Norm scheduled for War Games originally, didn't you?
Yeah, but that had to be in December.
He had to travel.
He had travel and
traveling, and he got sick, and all sorts of things happening.
Right.
He's got Dragon's Domain, perhaps.
Great. Yes.
I seem to recall your original plan for this podcast was 50% guests, 50% without. I don't know if they still stuck to that.
That's about where we are. I mean, I'm not saying they're doing the math, but that's basically how it's working out, I think. Sorry, I'm just looking here. I can't remember if I've actually queued up the next episode or edited it or not. Published episodes. Oh no, I have to do war games like now. Okay.
Well,
it'll be up in the next 12 hours or so.
Yep. And I'll see you tomorrow for Adventures of Shark Boy and Lava Girl, which I haven't watched.
I watched the first 30 minutes.
Does it suck?
Yeah,
man.
Again, is it a bottom 100 suck? It's like Robert Rodriguez basically made these in his garage, right? So if the guy that lived next to you had made this in his garage, you'd be like amazed.
Maybe. But what if he's an annoying neighbor and I just want to shit on anything he does?
Okay, well, let's
you and your you're always in your damn garage yelling, I hate you.
Let's
damn
assume
Flanders.
That he's like your physicist neighbor that makes movies.
Like the neighbor I like? Yeah, okay. If it's a neighbor I like, then sure.
Right. So like, he shows you his movie and it's not like great, but you're impressed, right?
Yeah.
But then it's an actual director, so you're less impressed.
Yeah.
That's where Shark Boy and Lava Girl sits in the first 30 minutes at least. And also it's just like it feels like a live action Xavier Renegade Angel without the jokes.
Without it funny. Yeah.
Without it being quite that weird meta funny. But yeah, it has that vibe of a live action Xavier Renegade Angel.
Well, we have reason to fight with Phil on this because Phil does like to fight, so it might be really fun if he comes in super hot and none of us like it. But I don't know. It probably won't be all that contentious, or he doesn't like it. Who knows?
Didn't seem that hot last time, so.
Well, no, we all liked it last time.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, that's the thing. I'm not. I mean, I haven't finished it, but I'm not it's one of those ones where I'm like, well, this isn't one of my new favorites. I don't think I like it as much as the Uwe Boll we did with him. So there is that.
Yeah, that's
But
the thing, is that uh, that was a weird one.
it's like if I was 7 years old and dumb, I'd probably like this movie a lot. You know.
Yeah. I'm sometimes
You
I
gotta
think
consider
to
the audience. Yeah.
yeah. Sometimes I think to myself that I want to watch that Uwe Boll movie again, and I'm just like, what the hell is going on?
I got Lord of the Rings here, but I think I'm gonna watch the Bowl again. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's
Gosh.
shorter at least.
That helps. Yes.
I haven't looked at the films and films list for so long. I don't know what movies you're talking about anymore.
Oh, this is the Adventures of
Uh,
Shark Boy and Lava Girl, directed by
Coming
Robert
up.
Rodriguez, which I thought was a Spy Kids movie, but it's not.
Oh,
It
I
is
remember
a
that
similar
title.
thing, right? Isn't it
It's
sort of like that?
it's the same vibe, but it is different, I guess. I only saw the first Spy Kids, and that was what 20 years ago. So, um,
Well, Brian, there's a bunch of stuff coming up in that list that doesn't have guests if you want some of it.
I could here. I'll read off a few. Bucky Larson, Born to Be a Star, doesn't have a guest. You have one for Macamee, so that has one. Dragon Wars
Yeah.
D War,
Oh,
2005's The Fog.
I think I found the document. Yeah.
High and Low has a guest now.
Ooh.
2000.
Is that the Salt of the Earth guy coming for High and Low?
Yes.
Bucky Larson. I have no clue what that is.
I think it's like a kind of an
SNL
also
comedy.
ran. Yeah.
It's
one of
you know
those.
what? It's on the shittier end of the SNL comedies.
Oh, okay. It's an SNL comedy. Okay.
Or maybe we'll love it. I don't know.
It's an
Haven't seen it.
SNL adjacent comedy, I
God.
think. Like those Rob Schneider movies that were tonally similar to SNL but not affiliated.
The Animal.
The Animal.
So,
What the hell is that?
I
That's
see we've
where
got
he
Mike
has
Richards.
animal powers.
Mike Richards.
He has for like. Well, also he
Yeah,
has.
it takes a lot.
I need to send it out to like Andrew and John. I need to kind of send them the list again because they were only choosing mostly from the first 40, except for that like really far future reach that John absolutely wanted. Kirk
Cameron saving Christmas.
Oh God, I
like
cannot like.
2027.
Yeah, I think
John,
you shouldn't like jump too far to the end of the list at any given time. Say, look at the next 6 to 12 months.
No, that's what
I don't
he did,
know, man.
except
Like,
for that.
That's just gonna
Except
be
for
me
that.
and that's just gonna be me and John like dancing on the ashes of that movie, just screaming at it probably the whole time. It's
I
like
mean, am I looking forward to that? Sure, but yeah, that's quite a while in the future.
I should put a stake in one of the Avengers movies just for fun because I always do Avengers things.
I mean,
even though it's the end
Yeah,
of the year,
that'd be
beginning of
fun.
next year.
You're like, yeah, I'm on every Avengers movie. The
Well,
Avengers.
Mike Richards has got
Avengers.
Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse, and that's the end
where
of the
is
year.
that? Is that coming soon?
No,
No,
we'll
it's
we'll do both when we get to it because when I made the list, the second one hadn't come out yet. So I think the second one's considered, which I have not seen yet. I need to see it, but it's as good or better, is it?
I'd say it looks better. The story isn't quite as good because it may be a little bit too up its own ass, but it looks better.
Into the Spider-Verse actually broke the top 10 on IMDb not long after you made the list. Now I got to go find where this list is on IMDb. I have no idea where it is.
Well,
it's
changed a lot for sure.
I would be shocked if Across the Spider-Verse wasn't on the top, maybe even top 50.
But yeah, I was like, when we do that with a while,
8.6.
We could just do both of them, you know.
That's ridiculous. 8.6 is ridiculously high for these things.
Yeah. When is that? Obviously, the dates. If you have the most recent version, the dates are even all different now. Obviously,
should probably get a revised list from you. Where is I saw it just a second. Okay, so Into the Spider-Verse is number 30 now. I think for a brief time it broke the top 10, but it just like you said, fluctuates every day, so it's impossible.
Yeah,
Across the Spider-Verse is 30. Sorry, that was the second one.
Oh, that's Across the Spider-Verse.
That's the second one. That's the new one.
Oh God, I didn't know there are two. Okay, yeah.
Oh yeah,
Into the Spider-Verse is now
the
63.
Yeah, see the second one is good. I mean, I made a Facebook post when it came out, was like, all other superheroes should just apologize to this film.
Well, it'll be
Is-
about a year
Okay.
and a month before we get to that. So
No, you're not. This is the second one. It's not on there because it wasn't out
no,
when
no,
you
I
made the
say we
list.
should do both of them at the same time.
Oh,
Isn't it
sure.
kind
Well,
of
there might
wild
be a
though?
third one.
Would you never have thought that 2 animated Spider-Man movies would be in the top 100 films of
It
of
doesn't
all time
surprise
or whatever? Not of
it
all
doesn't
time, but
surprise me that they're there. It surprises me that they got made at all. You know what I mean? It's
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
it makes perfect sense. It makes too much sense to do a hyper stylized movie based on Spider-Man comic books. It makes so much sense that it's like, what the fuck are we even doing as a society not making this? That maybe that's just me, but it's like I don't see them doing that with Superman. I mean, I guess you could argue Batman the Animated Series is a version of that, and that is
DC
still one
pretty
of the most
owned
loved.
their animation for a while. I mean, they put out some really good Superman, Batman, and other stuff, animated
Yeah,
wise.
you could argue that the Batman the Animated Series is one of the most beloved animated things that has ever existed. Just just based on even people loving it now.
Mm.
Like most stuff
It's so
does
funny.
not.
I've not gotten into any of that. I guess I really should.
It it might have been a you have to be there kind of thing because I can't separate it from, but like all those are to me, I just love them. I mean,
Well, I got the Batman 66 and animated series sets up here, and I will say Batman 66 gets grabbed more often.
you are a Batman 66 guy, and that's great. I mean, that's
Oh
totally cool.
yeah.
I am a Batman. I am a Batman Beyond. Actually, I'm a Freakazoid guy. Like that's more my thing. Like I would probably, if there was a Freakazoid set, which I don't think there is, I'd probably watch that a lot. But
I guess I'll wrap this guy up for now and catch
and
Mark.
Batman Beyond also.
Yeah, I guess y'all are gonna both be on the horn before too long. So,
All right,
oh, and Mark, next week is Eternal Sunshine. You do have that on your calendar?
let me double check.
I just noticed you had put down Dr. Aaron for 2001 again, but he ended up getting Mike.
Right,
It
because
was
yeah,
weird,
we were gonna do it
right?
before the strike, but after a strike, I basically couldn't get in contact with her early enough. So, and we're on a schedule. So,
Eternal Sunshine is 1 day, 1 week from today, right?
yeah, that sounds right.
Okay, got it.
So that was the I guess the biggest strike issue we got, that we had it scheduled and then we had to delay it and then it didn't happen. So oh well.
Yeah.
Oh, I know one I was gonna try to do is Superman 4, just because I never saw Superman 4. As an
My
excuse to
friend,
go watch it.
yeah, my friend Chuck called that one in advance. He wanted a Captain America, but
Oh,
but
darn it. See,
we
I
could
need to
only.
revise the list. I need to revise the list.
You should
I don't
just
know it's
go
taken in.
pick anything as far ahead as you want because people are already doing that shit.
I
Yeah, I mean,
know.
yeah, it's obviously it's not set in stone. It's like people are interested, but hey, in 6 months they might not be able to. So
Yeah.
It's
Well, you
hard.
know,
It's
it's
hard
like
to say. Yeah, it's so far ahead. It's hard to plan for it. But then again, it's only an hour of your time. So
yeah,
I'd say
theoretically,
I don't know how you feel about it, Matt, because you do all the work, but like I figure if someone calls it way in advance, as long as they cancel like a month ahead of time, then it doesn't really matter. Like we can always do
yeah,
without a
and
guest.
I mean, like, yeah, I mean, if the guest doesn't show up or something, it's like we can still do it, you
You
know.
just do yeah, do that. We've done
Which
that with like 3 of my friends who flaked out. So yeah.
well, if they're like all provisional, like I, would like to do this, then yeah, I don't want to like seem like I'm bogarting half the films
yeah, we
for
just found.
myself.
Oh no, it's more where it's like no, the Atlanta crowd is somewhat flaky.
Yeah, I don't know what's up with those people. My
I
friend
remember.
Will, who's in Hong Kong, is not flaky at all, and he'll absolutely show up and be good.
Mm,
But 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 we just have to figure out how to schedule that shit because I don't know what we're gonna do about
yeah.
it.
No, I mean,
That's
remember from
another problem.
experience, just the vibe in Atlanta, people are generally kind of flaky. I mean,
It's like a
obviously
lot
you're
of my
not. You find
friends.
people who aren't, but
Well, thing is, a lot of my friends are film people, and the problem is that like film people, if they're successful, then they are flaky because they're working like 15 hours a day and they don't have a brain anymore. And they just don't the work two job. Like the last film job I was on, I basically was doing the job of another guy because he was doing two shows at once without telling anyone. Or well, I mean, the guy who hired me knew that. So it's like the fucking it's just fucking insanity. But like I'm afraid I'm afraid to do a bad job at anything, and these guys are just like, fuck it, I'll just do like 3 film jobs at the same time and whatever. It's just wow, that's a terrible, unflattering. Okay, let's go.
Okay.